Dang.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 187 of Salvaggio and Cratty. Here for you again on a Wednesday, April 3rd, 7:03 p.m. If you hear any droplets in the background, it'll be because of the rain outside of my apartment. So, maybe it's a little ASMR in the distance. I don't know. But we don't have a ton to talk about across the board. But we do have all four sports for a nice, wide-ranging, more compact episode in terms of comparing it to what we've been doing lately. Some longer episodes. So, without further ado, Ryan, we'll start with Sox. I figure we just go in the order of the outline tonight because why not?
Sure,
They
makes the
just
most
beat the
sense.
A's today, 1-0. And part of the reason they're doing as good as they have been so far is because they played the A's.
hmm
But overall, not too bad, huh?
Yeah, I'd say so. That's kind of one of my main takeaways. Is that yes, the Red Sox have had a nice start to the season. There's a lot to like. There's a couple of things to dislike, and maybe some things to kind of not worry about because again, it's too early on in the season to worry about anything right now. But I'm glad you did say that. I mean, Seattle, good team. If people listened last week, I picked them to go to the World Series and lose to the Braves on the prediction show. I can't remember if you had them as a playoff team or not, but we both thought they
I
were going to
did.
be a good team. So a split with them is I feel like anything we really could have hoped for with how um down on this Red Sox team we were coming into the season. And they played Seattle pretty good. Had a couple of tough losses in there for one or two reasons that we'll get into in a little bit. But I thought that series overall was just what you could have asked for coming out of the gate. And then you do exactly what you should have against Oakland. Would have liked to score a couple more runs. A couple of 1-0 wins against the Oakland Athletics is not, or 1-0 win against them rather, and then have to go to extra innings in another game. Not the greatest, but you'll take it. Again, it's early on in the season. Crazy things happen, the first month or so. You see teams that probably shouldn't get off to hot starts, get off to hot starts. Um, you'll take it. They've been enjoyable to watch, which is, I think, one of the biggest things as well. And one of the surprising things, they've been competitive, which we didn't really think they would be. But again, you have kind of played a very lesser team in Oakland and a team in Seattle that tends to get off to cold starts. They tend to pick it up midway through the season. So I'm not going to get too high, not going to get too low on anything as of right now because we're only 7 games in. Um, and a surprise test coming up against the Angels, who just swept whoever they just played. I can't remember who it was, but the Marlins. They dominated them
Orioles.
for three
Or they
straight
played the
games.
Marlins too. Okay.
And they're currently first in the AL West, so that'll be a nice test for the Red Sox coming up this weekend.
Was Otani holding them back?
Oh, maybe,
No.
yeah. Mike
Um,
Trout's back to being a one-man show, and it's working out for him.
yeah, he sure is. Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar mindset to you with the Sox. There's, things to like, but you also got to factor in the A's and the fact that it's early. Um, I've liked Tyler O'Neill, like you. I think you can't really complain about what you've gotten from
Mm-hmm.
Tyler O'Neill. I like Sadon, not hitting the best, but he's made some nice outfield plays and, guy that plays with like good pace. I like the energy he brings. It's good, like
Mm-hmm.
youthful energy. Tristan Kasha's not the best right now. Really not the best, but it's very early and he's very talented, so I have faith. Um, Tanner Houck, 10 Ks in his first start, very good. Um, maybe a late bloomer. Maybe it's just a hot start and he's kind of average this year. I just want to get something out of Tanner Houck that is exciting. So
Mm-hmm.
Pavetta has also looked good, even though losing effort. Also played pretty solid. Be nice, at least if the Red Sox are going to stink, he's a trade chip. So if he plays
Yep.
good, he's got value. And honestly, the pitching staff under Andrew Bailey has been pretty good, besides Jolie Rodriguez. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I was texting you today. I wasn't a huge fan of how Kelly Jansen pitched today.
You reverse
Um,
jinxed him though right away. He figured it out
yeah,
afterwards and
he
yep,
did, but
locked things down.
was petrified of the strike zone evidently, and just really not making didn't have his command. But it's okay. They got the win. You know, a 1-0 win against a terrible team isn't much to celebrate about as a win. A win is a win, you know, when
Hmm.
you're getting established early on in the season. So I'm overall cool with it. Nothing is really worth complaining about right now too severely. So I'm in a good spot. You know, it's a good start. Hopefully they can keep it moving and at least, you know, put together a semblance of a good season.
Yeah, definitely will be interesting to see. I think you hit on one of the big things, and that was one of my main takeaways as well, is just how much of an immediate impact it seems that Andrew Bailey has had. I think right now you could probably put him in, and like I have in the outline here, pencil him in as your 2024 Boston Red Sox MVP, because like you said, outside of Jolie Rodriguez, who, spoiler alert, is, I kind of have this broken down in the list, is the good and the bad so far with the Red Sox for the first 7 games. Jolie Rodriguez, spoiler alert, is in the bad section because he is a guy that we said going into the season should not be on the roster, and man, has he backed it up in the 4 or 5 games that he's pitched in so far.
Especially when you see what Brendan Bernardino said yesterday, like extra
Yeah,
chip on his shoulder. Not
yeah.
thrilled.
Don't want
Not
to, I
thrilled,
mean, you
rightfully
do
so.
want to see that because obviously you want to root for guys that, have that type of mentality, but you don't want to see that. The guy clearly thinks he was wronged. I think you and I and pretty much all of Red Sox Nation agrees with that as well. So not the greatest thing that that's already coming out again. 7 games for accumulates to a week into the season. And again, Joey Rodriguez has not been able to kind of silence any doubters and back anything up. And again, solidify himself having a spot on this roster has not been great, especially when he's your only lefty. Again, I think that Brendan Bernardino should probably be waiting in Anaheim for the Red Sox when they make the trip to take on the Angels in a couple of days. And Jolie Rodriguez should probably find an employment somewhere else. But we'll stick with the good for now. Like I said, Andrew Bailey, these numbers, of course, are not updated after today's game because I honestly forgot they were playing a day game. Um, so, he's been excellent, like you said. Starters so far, again, not factoring in today's game, a 129 ERA, just 4 earned runs and 28 innings of work with 1 walk and 37 Ks. Again, numbers were not updated, but still pretty good numbers for your starting rotation. The bullpen, it's really been Jolie Rodriguez who's the one sore spot because everyone else has been great. The 3 earned runs, 2 of those belong to him. A 165 ERA for the bullpen and 16 of the third innings of work, so that's been very good. There is one thing on the whole Andrew Bailey philosophy I'm going to touch on in a little bit. Again, I don't want to be too negative about it because it's been very, very good so far, but I had this thought watching the game with my dad the other night, and I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on it as well. But I'm going to wait until, again, we get to the bad section because I just wanted to run through the stuff that I've liked as well so far. Another one you hit it right on the head. Tyler O'Neill's been very good. 5 for 13, a 385 batting average, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, has looked very comfortable playing both corner outfield spots. It was kind of a question going into the year of where would he play, right field, left field. It seems like right field is kind of his sticking point because Duran's been pretty good in left field as well. He's been excellent at the plate so far. I think it was either 4 for 4 or 4 for 5, whatever he finished today hitting. So he's picked up right where he left off last year. His defense has obviously improved a little bit. But O'Neill's been great, good hitter in the middle of that lineup, something they're going to have to lean pretty heavily on. If you got guys like Devers in a slump or like you said, Casas off to a slow start, but we've seen that before, so I don't think he's going to, struggle all that much. Kind of picked it up in Oakland, had a get right series as the Oakland Athletics should be, as we know. The defense as a whole has been very good. Trevor Story's been excellent at shortstop. It's crazy, what you can accomplish with a, competent, bona fide shortstop play in the position. Emmanuel Valdez at second base has not been a crutch like he was last year. He's made some very big strides. And you mentioned it as well. Rafaela had another amazing catch today in center field. Maserati kind of put a damper on things I saw on Twitter with Rafaela's catch the other night, where the running catch he had, that's a catch a center fielder, like a basic major league center fielder should make, but it's amplified so much when the Red Sox have had terrible center field play, really since
And
Jackie
he's a
Bradley.
rookie. Like,
And he's a rookie too, so yeah. But that's just kind of the thing. It's like the Red Sox have not had a bona fide defensive center fielder since JBJ left. And to see Rafaela making these plays that, again, might be routine plays when you really look at it. Again, today I think was a difficult one that he ended up making. Almost made 2 great plays. He had one just kind of glance off his glove. But he's been great. He's looked pretty comfortable in the outfield. His speed has obviously been a game changer at times. You'd like to see the bat pick up a little bit, but we talked about that in the season preview last week. He's a rookie you expected out of the gate. Like, he came in to today leading the team in strikeouts at 7. I think he was tied with Casas. I said it last week. I'll say it again. He's going to struggle at times. That's kind of the one hitch on him is he does strike out a little bit, doesn't, really know the strike zone at times. But we agreed last week when we talked about this, and I think they even said it on the broadcast when I was listening to work today. He's not a guy that if he struggles, you're going to option to Worcester just so he lights it up in Worcester, and then you call him back up here. Like you'll take the punches, and you'll roll with him at the major league level, until he figures some things out. So that's kind of where I'm at on him. I feel like you kind of already touched on him, but you're probably in the same mindset as well.
Yeah, and even if he does get those bumps and bruises, like you've embraced not spending a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So like, is somebody else you're going to replace him with really going to make that much of a difference?
Yeah, what else do you have exactly too? Like Refsnyder when he comes back, but again, he's not going to be a starting outfielder. Again, we're not advocating for Rafael Struggles. You send him out of here by any means, but like you didn't do a whole lot to solidify really backing up any of these young guys, as we talked about last week, and as I'll talk about a little bit later. So you're rolling with what you got. Like Abreu has struggled to start the year defensively at times. He's looked a little lost at the plate, but again, who else do you really have that can play right field over him? Like you can play O'Neill, obviously. Yoshida, I'm sure will get some time in left field, or maybe you're not going to move him around the outfield, so maybe move Duran. But you're kind of stuck at that, seeing what these young guys are, and that was obviously their plan going in. So again, not complaining because things have been more positive than negative. But these are just some things you got to keep in the back of your mind if you're the Red Sox.
Yeah, I think for what this roster has to work with, we've got pretty good results, and it'll be nice to have some stability in the outfield with this.
For sure.
If this continues, and the bullpen has been really nice. So overall, pretty good.
Think of it this way: it could be worse. You could have your center fielder batting 460 whatever to start the season it was, and you option him to AAA like the Oakland Athletics did before this series with Estuary Ruiz. I don't know if you saw that story. I think I may have shared it with you.
Yeah.
Just an absolute dumpster fire of an organization. Like that's a joke. The thing that was surprising too is I don't know if you saw Mark Kotze. I think he was basically asked about it, and he really said that even if he was gonna start the year, and if it wasn't for I think the guy they called up for this series, Nevin, if it wasn't for his injury or somebody's injury to start the year, Ruiz would have started the year in AAA to begin with, which is just absolutely insane. Like that team is just so against being competitive. And then there's obviously the people that have missed it, the conspiracy theory out there of the wristbands, which is kind of interesting if you're into conspiracy theories and all that. Some of these guys that did wear the like anti-ownership, whatever it was, banned last year. If you go back and look, like those 4 or 5 guys all are no longer with the team or have been benched or optioned to their AAA team. So kind of an interesting little tidbit there, just to kind of again hammer on the Oakland Athletics because they deserve to be. Like that is not a competitive Major League Baseball team at all. Just watching that series this week, and just what has transpired with that team over the last couple of games here.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a complete joke.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add on a certain right-handed hitter you don't like?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't like him unless you're that one guy that came at me on Twitter for Dahlbeck's 7-pitch strikeout he had his first at bat of the season. But yeah, to allude to it. Yeah, exactly. Yep. It doesn't matter if it's. I mean, it does. That does have some merit where you make a pitcher work and everything. But again, whether it's a 3-pitch strikeout or a 10-pitch strikeout, you still struck out. And as you sent me the tweet that has only grown worse as the season has gone on, it's what Bobby Dahlbeck is. We've kind of beat around the bush the bad things from this season so far. The fact that Bobby Dahlbeck and Joely Rodriguez still have jobs on this team, because they are both useless at this point. Rodriguez did come in, look a little better today. But to give up another hit to a lefty, like you're the one lefty on the team, you kind of have to come in and get these guys out. Like that is your one job right now. So to have him not be effective at all, and again, we've already talked about the Bernardino stuff, just a recipe for disaster. Like I can't say it enough. Just call Bernardino up at this point. Like you're not losing anything getting rid of Rodriguez. I can't imagine with the start he's had, if you have to option him to Worcester and he has to go through waivers, I can't imagine there's a team clamoring to get Joely Rodriguez. Like they will find other lefties on their team or in their organization. Like this is not a guy you're going to, and exactly too. Like who gives a crap? Like you can find other guys that'll be more effective. I'm sure of it. And then a Dahlbeck situation too. Like at this point, it is again, they don't have anything else. Like Refsnyder is obviously the guy that would replace Dahlbeck on the roster. But he's obviously hurt right now. He is useless. Like the game against Seattle where he came up with 2 on and 2 out. I think I either tweeted it or texted it to you or maybe both. Like I've never been more confident in the Red Sox not scoring a run than when Dahlbeck steps to the plate. Now in 4 games this year, 0 for 6 with 5 strikeouts. This was the Red Sox stat tweet you sent me Friday night. And again, this has only gotten worse as the games have gone on. They said if Dahlbeck can't hit again, hit against a lefty reliever that isn't good against right-handed batters. When is he ever going to hit again? He has struck out in 53 of his last 109 MLB plate appearances. Absolutely atrocious. You sent me the math on it. That's basically what, half your bats are striking out, or a little less than half your bats are striking out. Um, I just don't understand why they continue to give him at bats, especially again, he's not going to light the world on fire at this point in his career anymore. But say Ref Snyder's out for a long extended period of time, bring back Crone or make some sort of move to get some sort of actual right-handed hitter in this lineup. Because if Dahlbeck can't hit against lefties, like I know he's not going to play against righties, but his one thing is up here to hit against lefties. If he can't even do that, like there is literally no
DFA
use for
him.
him on the roster. Exactly. Like, I mean, he probably has options, so you can send him to Worcester pretty easily. It's not a Rodriguez situation where you're scared shitless for some reason if somebody's going to pick him up. But it's just maddening to me that he continues to get at bats up here. And again, he's not taking away from anybody because there really isn't a prospect that's ready to come up right now that would take his spot. But it just blows my mind that they continue to try to make him work. And it's just so obvious that it doesn't at this point.
It's like that meme of like the old broken record player on the sidewalk says broken but could be fun to fix. But
Yeah.
like the only thing is it's just not fun to fix because it hasn't worked and it hasn't been enjoyable.
Mhm.
But in the same vein, yeah, I mean, I don't know why you'd be in on Bobby Dahlbeck at this point. It's just not working. It hasn't worked for a while.
Yeah, it beats me. The other thing too, it's kind of cleaned itself up these last couple of games because he has been available. I was going to ask if you had any thoughts on you kind of alluded to it on Jansen today with some wildness, but kind of a polarizing start to the year. Obviously, the Red Sox, they lose that extra inning game in Seattle. The one where Jolie Rodriguez obviously has to come in and try to nail down a save. I originally thought it was Alex Cora being dumb and playing the matchup game because I think it was 3 or 4 hitters coming up in that inning were lefties or whatever it was. And instead, we found out after the game that Kenley Jansen had been dealing with a back injury that has kind of flared up of late. It obviously flared up a bit in spring training, which has kind of delayed his start. But it was kind of after the fact. Jansen was like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, I woke up with a bad back. Like, what can I do type of thing. And that kind of led some people to have some pretty strong opinions on it because Jansen, as we know, obviously was one of the guys in spring training who was pretty vocal at how this team has been constructed. I'm putting words in his mouth here, but kind of felt like, there was a different plan that when he signed on for type of thing. Jared Carabas had a good tweet where he said, if you're hurt but not hurt enough to come or to go on the IL, then you can take the ball in a save situation if you're the team's closer. Don't complain that the team isn't good enough and then choose to be part of the reason why the team loses. Give me a break. Felt the same thoughts in the time that it happened. Like Jansen, like I said, was one of the more vocal guys this offseason. Then he comes out and can't pitch because of a bad back. Like, I'm not worried because, again, we're only 7 games into the year, but I wonder if this is something that might come up from time to time. I don't know if I think he's going to play up this type of injury, but I'm rambling here. Do you have any thoughts on the Jansen situation? Are you kind of, it's come and gone. He's pitched okay these last couple of games. Where are you at on him?
Yeah, I kind of see his side and like the Carabas side there, but gut feeling right now is he's like this is the first of many seeds he's gonna plant of like
Yeah. Yep. That was the
like
point I was trying to get to, and I couldn't formulate the words good. So thank you for
so
that because
yeah, like
I
he'll
feel the
say it
same
is what
way.
it is, like this happened, like
Mhm.
kind of just I don't know if there will be like a a specific trend to it, but it'll be like not excuses, but like this happened, like never
Yeah,
like
every once in a while.
yeah, it'll just pop up every once in a while. It'll be something new, like
You wonder if like the
and
season
it'll
takes a
kind of
turn for the worse if that's when it starts to
yeah, like no matter
creep
what it
in.
is, it'll kind of give you the same vibe, like vibe energy wise of how he says it to like previous incidents
Hmm.
to, as I struggle to kind of put it. I think that's the best way I can think of putting it. So,
Yeah, okay.
I don't
I
know.
got you.
This feels like something that's gonna linger.
Yeah, and like I said too, again, the fact that he was the vocal guy in spring training, like it's not a good look. Like already you're having these problems. Again, you were known as the guy that was one of the more upset ones. Obviously, we know what Devers said. Um, but Jansen numerous times last year, this year was the guy that was like, we haven't done enough type of thing. Like I thought we were gonna make more moves than we have. And then your second appearance of the year, you're out with a back injury that kind of came out of nowhere because you would have thought if this was something that you knew going into the game, then Alex Cora or somebody would have put it out there beforehand that Jansen's unavailable tonight, but it didn't seem like anybody knew until after the game. So again, things
Yeah.
kind of a weird situation there. But again, he has come back. Wasn't great last night. Was a little iffy today, but has been able to nail down a couple of saves here. So it's a wait and see kind of thing on him. And like you said, I feel like if the season lingers a little bit, or if this lingers a little bit and things maybe start to go a little awry, maybe this is something that creeps back up and, then we'll have something to deal with down the, or something to talk about down the line.
Yeah, sure seems that way.
All right.
Anything else you want to add on the rest of the team?
Yeah, the one thing I did want, because like I said, there was one thing I was thinking about the other night, and again, I don't want to be overly negative here, but just something to keep in the back of the mind. I know I talked up, and again, I wanted to get your opinion and maybe some thoughts on it too, if this is something you've thought about. Um, but the whole big thing with Andrew Bailey coming into this year, and it was alluded to after the Seattle game, and talked about a couple times in this series against Oakland. Um, Andrew Bailey's big thing is, he's a big spin rate guy. A lot of these pitchers now are throwing the sweepers, relying more on pitch movement, stuff like that. The Red Sox, broadcast stuff like that made it kind of a point to talk about how in the Seattle series they didn't throw a lot of fastballs. Like that was the big surprise, is how many breaking balls, curve balls, stuff like that that they threw. My thought process is, obviously when you're, I mean, again, guys are in better shape, so I'm not going to explain this the way I want to. I feel like the constant spin and the constant, irky jerkiness on your arm has me just a slightly worried that, like, if you have guys throwing more breaking balls this year, like, I just hope for these pitchers' sakes, because again, they've gotten off to such a good year, that you don't see an increase in injuries. Like that obviously didn't happen with the Cubs last year, but you know what I mean? Like you've obviously played baseball growing up. You're kind of taught when you're throwing, like, don't have kids throw curveballs, don't, because it obviously messes up their elbow, stuff like that. So I'm a little worried in that sense that, if they're not going to throw a lot of four-seam fastballs and straight pitches and they want to focus more on the spin rate type of stuff, like I just hope for the Red Sox sake that some of these guys don't start having arm injuries creep up. We obviously saw it with Giolito already. So I don't know. Like, do you have any? Again, I didn't explain this, I feel like, well enough at all, but I
No,
feel
you're
like you,
good.
you maybe get where I'm coming from here. Any maybe just slight concerns that
Yeah, I think
something,
that's the way
yeah.
to put it. Like, it's definitely gonna sit in my mind a little now.
Mm-hmm.
But
I so,
like,
I mean,
I'm
I
not gonna
don't want to
wait.
be
I'm
doom and
not
gloom
gonna
and be
wait
like,
in
this
terror,
is,
you know.
yeah, like
But I
waiting
get where you're
in the
coming from. It's
corner.
like it's something worth mentioning,
It's
and
something
it
I'm
could be
curious
nothing, but
about, like, because obviously it's
yeah,
worked so far. Like, I'm not gonna, again, I don't want to knock on it because it's been great. And Bailey, again, like I said, has been the team's MVP to start the year with how dominant these pitchers have looked so far. But on the flip side of it, it's like, all right, like, could you take the stress off a little bit and maybe factor in a cut? And Pivetta did that today. The radio broadcast maybe seemed to thought he was maybe dealing with some sort of injury, or not like a major injury, but they said a couple of times like he was stretching weird at times. Was obviously focusing more on some four seam fastballs. So maybe that's just something they're going to work on throughout the season, is different type of pitch mixes and stuff. I'm sure that that'll be the case. Um, Stuff like that. The other point too, really quickly, I had on this team, because again, they've been scrappy so far, and they've actually surprisingly been fun to watch. It's been enjoyable watching this Red Sox team so far. I feel like you probably feel the same way. Um, Again, don't want to be negative, but on the flip side of that, like if they continue to be this scrappy and continue to be in more games than we thought they were going to be in initially, I can't help but feel that that's something that should still piss Red Sox fans off. And I think John Tomasi talked about this the other night, and he brought up if this is the case, how could nobody on this team see this? Like that this team is going to have some ability, to have some of these moments where instead of having a guy like Joey Rodriguez on this team to pitch, maybe you should have went out and signed another pitcher. That way you could have maybe moved Whitlock or Houck to the bullpen and avoided a Joey Rodriguez or somebody. Chase Anderson was good in his first outing. Don't get me wrong, but we talked about it last week. Like Chase Anderson's not a guy I feel like you're going to be able to rely on most of the year. He's just not. That's not the pitcher he is. Or the Dahlbeck situation. Like, okay, you again going into the you should have known what Bobby Dahlbeck was. So instead of having him on the roster, you should have maybe, we talked about this obviously, brought back Justin Turner, signed any sort of impact right-handed hitter instead of having Bobby Dahlbeck on your roster. Who you have him on the roster, he strikes out with two guys on, you end up losing the game. So he cost you a game there. Rodriguez, same thing, cost you a game because he's not a guy
good.
you can. He's not good. He's not a guy you can rely on. So that's kind of where I'm at too. Like I agreed with what the thought Tomasi had of like, maybe Red Sox fans should be pissed off if this season goes well, but you have some of these moments and some of these close losses, and again that the team was apparently not willing or not worth spending on if you're the front office. So again, super early on in the season, don't want to be overly negative because it's been very good, but these are some things that have kind of creeped into the back of my mind a little bit here. That like, all right, wait and see type of thing, but you know where I'm at with this.
No, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a storyline. It should like They're the Red Sox. We've been so used to so long so used to spending for so long. Like
Hmm.
you're always gonna wonder what if, like how much better could we be if they actually did spend? Like
Yeah, for
how did
sure.
they not identify this better? And I don't know.
I'm
It's
glad
very
you're here
again,
because you summarize what I'm trying to say very, very well and more articulately than I
yeah,
can.
I don't really
So
have much else more
no,
to
I
add
I
there. It's
gotcha.
just
Yep.
that's how it comes across my
Hmm.
my brain. So
Yep.
overall, I mean, we'll see how it goes. Would you say did you mention who they had next series?
It is the
Mm,
Angels, and again, the
Angels.
Angels, one of the bigger surprises of the league so far. Because again, like you said, Mike Trout is basically a one man wrecking crew again, with no Shohei Ohtani. Like you joked, maybe Ohtani was the reason why they were not that good. Um, but yeah, off day tomorrow for the first time this year, and then they start Friday night against the Angels with Cutter Crawford, who was again very good to start the season. He was kind of the one that got the short end of the stick with the extra innings lost after how well he pitched and didn't give up a run. But I believe it's 3 against the Angels over the weekend, so that'll be a again, don't want to say tough task because the start of the season is such a weird time where you have teams like the Pirates that are what 5-0 or 5-1, and the Tigers are undefeated. Um, but anything can happen type of thing. So we'll see if the Red Sox can keep up their success. Again, not going to get too high, not going to get too low about anything with a week into the season.
And they will remain on the West Coast.
Yep.
So that's no fun
Games will
for
be
the
very
fans at
tough to
least.
stay up
But
for, and yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I do love the Angels ballpark though. It's one of my favorites.
Yep.
Um, on to the Bruins. They're playing solid, you know, had another tough stretch of games, I'd say, even though Washington, they're one of the enigmas. They've been playing hard lately. But Tampa Bay on the 27th, they lose. Pretty pretty tough game. You're just getting outplayed by a team that's steamrolling right now. It's
Hmm.
just how it is. Um, Omar kept them in it, 28-30 stopped. They were outshot 31-24. Carlos had a rough week and a half, I'd say, maybe a little longer. Overcommits on this goal for an unknown reason, and then Chaffee is just all alone. I loved what I've seen from Heinen Pasazaka the last week or so as well. Great forecheck by Pasta, knocks it free for Zaka, grabs it, finds Heino, kind of similar to that Nashville goal last night in a way. Um, the point goal was like another one of these goals. I think I said this in one of the games last week. You would have thought they were on the power play, the way they were just passing it around the perimeter of the offensive zone. And then some miscommunication, I think, between Lindholm and Peak, very unfamiliar with playing with each other. Peak's in the middle, Lindholm's on the left side, can't, make a play to catch the speedy point on the wraparound attempt, and Peak is caught in the middle. Wasn't able to get there in time. That stinks. That was what ended up being the backbreaker. Bruins couldn't get another one. Good finish by point two. And the Kucherov goal, the empty netter, I don't know if you remember that one at all. He was just kind of chilling behind Pastrnak and McAvoy. And got a cleared puck and wrapped it around and won the game. So
Hmm.
it was not the most exciting if you're a Bruins fan, but Tampa's been playing really good right now, and as they need to, they are not in as much of a comfortable spot as teams like the Leafs, the Bruins, and the Panthers in that Atlantic division. So every point counts just to make it easier to sleep at night. Um, Washington a few days later get a little extended rest, win in a shootout. Swayman only faced 20 shots, stopped 18 of them, outshot. Um, the Caps 29-20. Big thing. Puck management was pretty poor for Washington. Gave away the puck 13 times. Um, I said I'd like Lindholm to put a few more points in, maybe score last week. He listened. I think they thought like Pastrnak tipped this, but he didn't. Seeing I shot through traffic. The goal for Michael Scarbosa was weird because that's like a guy that shouldn't be able to score a goal like that because he's not very good at hockey. And Coyle can make a play on the clearing attempt, stretch pass. And I don't know if there was like a line change and Shattenkirk and Peak couldn't get up quick enough, or they got caught at the blue line somehow, defensive blue line. But no one was back in time, and that was not good. I think, that was a pretty rough sequence overall. Um, Johnny Beecher makes a nice case here with that hard work and that heads up hockey to stick in the lineup. I don't know why you wouldn't play him in the playoffs. I think it'll be good experience for him down the road, and I think he's earning it. I think he's played pretty solid. Blocks passingly with his skate, and then uses that speed. He's got some good size and speed mix. Outraces Dylan Strome and buries one on the 5-hole backhand. Big goal for the Bruins. In the moment, but John Carlson played spoiler. Just wasn't a huge fan of Lindholm and Carlo on this goal. They really like Carlos had more so in the first 60 games of the year, a pretty good year.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole season, he's had times like Lindholm where he's absolutely god awful at defending the slot, which is a little bizarre for a bigger guy. But I guess you don't move as well as a bigger guy.
It's
So
bizarre too that he has some of these because I was gonna say that I feel like there's at least 1 or 2 points in the year, or maybe so more so this year, where it kind of blows my mind that he just looks like he forgets how to play hockey out there half the
yeah,
time.
he does.
Like,
And Lindholm was this whole season, he's just been awful at defending the slot, awful at covering tight windows around the net.
but
Really,
put two
really
of those
bizarre
guys
stuff.
together and see if they can right the wrongs. That doesn't make any sense. But
Because that's part of the reason why they've been doing a little Lindholm and peak action lately. Because Lindholm and Carlo had a really rough stretch of games
yep.
last week or a little bit before. I'm not super optimistic about Lindholm and Peak as a combo because I think Peak is just better suited as a third pairing defenseman. But yeah, they were not good on that Carlson goal. It really, really wasn't good. But they went in the shootout. DeBrusk goes back to basics with his patented little flick over the shoulder. Love to see that. He's just got that down pat. Pasta scores a weird one that we had to wait on bated breath for that one. And we criticized him for it last time when they put Kevin Shattenkirk in the 5th round of a shootout in a game. But the stats do back it up. They even did at the time, and it worked this time.
I thought the
Shattenkirk
exact same
scores
thing watching the game. I was like, you got to be
right.
shitting me. They're doing it again.
They're
And then I
doing
was
it again.
ready to text you, and I'm like, I'll just delete that because it ended up working out.
That's you gotta put Jim Montgomery, the meme of the guy drag smoking the cig with the crazy or the joint. I don't know what he's smoking.
Mm-hmm.
With the crazy eyes. I don't know if it's from some movie or something, but you gotta put Montgomery because that's what I think when I see a decision like that. But they get it done.
Oh, the McConaughey meme?
Is that
It's
McConaughey?
McConaughey. Yeah,
I've
that's the
never
one you're
even
talking about. Yep, that's
yeah, I've
McConaughey. I'm
never
pretty
even
sure.
put any thought into who that actually is. I just see it and I'm like, oh god, it's the guy ripping a drag of a cigarette or something meme.
Yeah, I'm
I
like
guess it is Matthew
99% sure it's
McConaughey.
McConaughey.
Now that I visualize the meme, I've never really thought of it. I've always just thought of it as a guy. But yeah, big win. Tough to not get 2 points there for a team like the Capitals. So, they're battling, but at least they get one. The Bruins break their hearts a little bit. Nashville. I talk a lot about when I talk about Jeremy Swayman, that 42 save shutout a couple years ago that I randomly have a very photographic memory about. It was Linus Ullmark's turn to get a shutout on the road in Nashville. 31 saves, 3-0 win. A scoreless first 40 minutes or so. They outshot them just by a hair, 32-31 in favor of the Bruins. And unfortunate news came in the form of the Justin Brazeau injury. A friend of mine mentioned this to me. I broke my wrists in intramural hockey in a very similar way.
Exact same way. Not good.
Pretty damn similar. I wonder if he might have suffered the same fate.
You hope
Yeah.
not. Like we were talking about or
No.
texting last night, because as we talked about either last show or a couple of these last couple of shows here, he's been excellent.
Yeah,
I feel like he's
He
everything,
really is
everything
good.
you've wanted in a fourth liner and probably more. Because I feel like the expectations weren't all that high for him when he was first called up, but he has answered the bell more so than not.
Yeah, he's a beast, and it would be really tough to see. And if he fractured his radius bone like I did, I would expect an 8-week recovery time because I'm a doctor now, because that's how long it took me.
Yeah.
And
You've had
to
the
recover
experience,
from
so you
mine.
know. Yep.
Maybe it's a 6 to 8. I feel like you see, when you see 8 weeks, you're usually got the 6 to 8 timeline. But
You need to be one of those
hopefully,
guys that calls into every station in 98.5 and that they always love so much. That's like, yeah, when I broke my wrist and my wrist bone in
yeah,
college,
I'll be
I,
like a
I know
Dr.
what
Flynn.
happened. Yeah.
I'll be like a Dr. Jess Flynn reply guy.
Yeah.
The NFL doctor.
Yep.
Yeah, really unfortunate. Brazeau's awesome, and I hope it's shorter term. So if they can stick around in the playoffs a bit, he can get some experience because he'd be a fun guy to watch in the playoffs. But Charlie Coyle, huge goal, shorthanded goal, tied his career high in points at 56. Secondarily assisted, first helper of the year for Linus Ullmark. Usually he's scoring goals like last year, but this time he's getting a little helper. No, what this just made me remember? I think Jacob Markstrom on the Flames has 5 assists this year. Their goalie,
Jesus, pretty good.
something like that. He's got a good amount. Maybe Omar can catch him in the final 7 or so games here they got. And Marchand doesn't screw around with it on the wall, just spins it out. A little spin past Coyle and he buries it. Those soft hands. He loves those, little quick moves like that he made. Loves to sneak it under the bar. It works for him. And it did there. I don't know if you saw the interference call on DeBrusque.
It did
Really
not.
weird.
I had the Red
Like
Sox on at this
so
point.
so minimal and so tacky. I felt the need to call that out because I think it perplexed a lot of people.
Mhm.
Luckily, it didn't lead to a Nashville goal because Linus Omar shut the door. A great play on the second goal by Pastrnak to break it up. A little cross crease pass to Heinen. Break it up in the defensive zone, then break out. Ty Anderson's been harping on this. Pasternak's two-way game is really coming along. Like he's becoming like physical. He forechecks and he like makes plays to create breakouts, more so than he's done in the past. I feel like we saw a little bit of that at times last year, but man,
Mhm.
if you can get Pastrnak to become a three-zone player now, like he's
Be pretty
become,
good.
it's
Yeah.
pretty insane. Heinen gets it back out front, little reversal type thing, reversal type pass, kind of did a little and pass it out front to Zaka, who just come off the bench. So if Morgan Geekie does not go to the bench to change lines, maybe they don't score that goal. Pretty awesome. Pastrnak gets a empty netter late to end at number 46 on the OC. If he can get 50, that'd be pretty cool. And things got a little chippy in the third period. The Bruins just didn't care, which was nice.
Mhm.
Like you don't need to, and they didn't blow it. It's easy with this team to like see a goal or two and be like, oh no,
Yep. Here it comes.
first offensive zone stint Nashville gets. Like, what's going to happen here? Especially for a team like Nashville that's been playing awesome the past 2 months. Linus Olmark, since the trade deadline, is 4-2 with the 1.50 goals against average and a 950 save percentage. Playing like a man on a mission, further reinforcing the need for him to be the game one starter.
Yep.
It is what it is. I don't know, like I know Swayman's going to be the guy long term, but like you got to reward the guy who's on your roster.
You ride the hottest hand too. Like,
Yeah,
and it's
and
so far been all like I know Swayman had a nice game the other night against Washington. Maybe he's starting to figure some things out a little bit here and kind of come off the cold streak he's been on. But it's been Olmark for, like you said, what was the trade deadline, a month ago? Just about at
yeah,
this point. Like it's been
mhm.
Olmark for the last month. So
Yeah, it's got to be. And this is a tandem where like none of them will be phased by it. Like just
mhm.
run with the hot hand. Goaltending is your identity. They have it was the J Fresh guy. I think their goals saved above expected was number one in the league at like 39.8. I think the next highest was 33.5.
Jeez.
Like it's fucking they're saving like more high danger chances, like 6 more a game, like potential goals a game than any other team. Like, so do that. Like,
Mhm.
ride the hot hand. You don't have as much scoring depth. You didn't spend a shit ton to upgrade your team. Goaltending your identity. Ride the hot hand. Swayman will have opportunities down the road to start in the playoffs. And he's still young and he's not playing great lately. Like
Yep.
if you ride Swayman in the playoffs and he can't bounce back and get back to his form, you're gonna be like, why the hell did we do that?
Yeah,
Like,
it's such a second guess.
yeah, you can't. You just can't. Like I include that Heinen, Zaka, Pasta have really become a solid second line. Zaka and Pasta, we know what they do, but I think Heinen is the perfect third fiddle to, clean up some things defensively and just be in the right places.
Blows my mind that still nobody wanted him.
Oh
Like
man,
I was
he's
talking
like
about this
I
on
think he's
Easter
at
with my
34
grandfather.
points now,
Like
I
it's
think.
insane that nobody was able to or willing to give him a some sort of act like actually
Even
decent
as a fourth
contract.
liner.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's the man. He's such a good fit in this group. He always
Hmm.
has been. Even when they decided he wasn't and traded him for Nick Ritchie, who was bludgeoning people in the Finnish league. I don't even know if he's on a Finnish team anymore. One concern. The Bruins are not doing so hot on the power play lately. The last 6 games, they're 1 for 12, which is a whopping 8.3% on the power play.
Gross.
Got to fix that ahead of the postseason, for sure.
Or don't, because we know that having a bad power
Fizzo?
play in the playoffs maybe works for the Bruins.
Ryan.
Yeah, might be onto something
Excellent
there.
point,
Thank
sir.
you.
Excellent point. Carolina tomorrow night in Raleighwood. They're 47, 21 and 7. They've got 101 points, second in the Metro. Sebastian Aho leads them in scoring with 85 points in 72 games. They're pretty hot right now. Things have gone pretty well since they got Jake Gensel. They have won 8 of their last 10 and 2 in a row. So good test. You'll see them again on the 9th at TD Garden. So again, this is like 3 weeks in a row. They've had a pretty tough slog of games
Yeah,
to end the
this
season.
is a bloodbath at the end of the year. It
Yeah,
really is.
right sandwiched in between about a week and a half, maybe at this point, after quite a physical game against the Florida Panthers. They come to Boston this time, led by Sam Reinhart and his 52 goals and 87 points. They are really the polar opposite of the Carolina Hurricanes right now. They've won just 2 of their last 10, which is very odd because they've been very good all year. And they've lost 2 straight. At this point, depending on what happens around the league, certain matchups that affect the standings, this could be a big game for first place in the Atlantic Division. So maybe at that point, first place in the Eastern Conference, depending on what happens with the Rangers. So who are also playing very good since the deadline. Team that was also in on Jake Gensel, ironically enough. Big slog of games. What are we thinking, Ryan? Are you really worried if they struggle, or does it depend on how it goes? Like if they
It
lose 2 or
depends
3,
on
like are you gonna get pretty worried?
it depends on how it goes because I know I just said this is a bloodbath and maybe that came across as like something you don't want to see at the end of the year, but I feel like this is a stretch that could maybe benefit the Bruins. Like you are playing playoff hockey over these next 3 games.
Mhm.
Like I know obviously you just played a couple of teams that are fighting for their playoff lives or trying to get in, so those are tough games as well. But these are 2 teams that have given you fits in the past. Obviously, we saw in the Florida game, Florida I feel like at this point is just out more so to beat the living shit out of you than maybe just beat you on the score sheet. Um, so if they come out of these games, say they do lose 2 out of 3, but they lose them like 3-2, 2-1, that type of thing, you're gonna be like, all right, like you can still skate with these teams. It's maybe a coin toss type of thing. If they get their doors blown off and or get beat up and pushed around, like that Florida game at times again, they lose like 4-1, 3-0. Then I might have a little bit of concerns. Because again, like you're probably gonna see, depending on how, or you would think maybe depending on how long your playoff run is, that one of these teams might creep in there again. And you might see them at some point. It again, I hate the wait and see type of answer, but you're kind of in wait and see mode at this point.
Mhm.
Like you said, it could
Yeah.
go either way. But I don't know. Like I said, I think it'd be a good test because again, you're playing playoff hockey at this point before the playoffs obviously start. 2 opponents that play you really really well. Be interesting to see how the Bruins respond to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm in the same boat, but I just want to see this toughness, and they've found a good mix of being tough when they need to lately
Mm-hmm.
and not letting stupid shit bother them. So I hope they continue with that, and I hope um we can get Pat Maroon in at some point
Yeah, it would be
because
nice. Get him a couple of games
especially
under
if you
his.
lose
Mhm.
Brazeau for some time, get some games.
Yep.
Might be tough to bring a guy recovering from a back injury and against a couple physical teams like Florida and Carolina, but that could be a couple of games you need him in, but
Mm-hmm.
he might not be ready by then. He said earlier in the week, like probably another week. So um, connect the dots there. Maybe he just plays a game or two, but um, yeah, especially if Brazeau is out, he's going to be a factor. So
Yep.
or you'd hope, there's no setbacks or nothing, but um, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a tough week regardless. And we'll see if they're made for it. I just wanted to, on a different note, I don't know if you saw the story about Boone Jenner today, Ryan.
Did not.
His son Dawson, I hate seeing stories like this. His son Dawson was stillborn on March 31st. Him and his wife pretty devastated. They made an announcement today, so we just wanted to send our best. I hate seeing stuff like this happen in sports,
Mm-hmm.
but just an awful thing, awful announcement to see today, and just wishing the Jenners the best because uh, this is the type of thing that rocks the hockey community and rocks their family and friends.
Yep.
So really sad story to see. Hoping they can find strength and move past this. Um, as best as they can because it's a nightmare scenario. Um, no gradual way to segue out of a bit of news like that, but Jackson Nelson, the captain of the University of Minnesota, after being eliminated, uh, and some murmurings that the Bruins ran on him. They got him on a 1 year entry level contract. He's a 24-year-old, 6'4", 220 pounds right shot center from the University of Minnesota. Scored 11 goals in his last 8 games. Had 19 on the season. There's no downside to adding college free agents, man. No matter
Mhm.
what they do, they're good young depth, and maybe you get, Mark McLaughlin stretch out of one. Maybe you get a Frank Vetrano, who's become very successful. You just got to take shots at the dartboards with these guys if you like them enough. And 11 goals in 8 games will help your stock as a college
Yeah,
free
pretty
agent.
good.
Good, I like how the Bruins have the Bruins organization has become more comfortable, or maybe not comfortable is the word, but like they've become more willing to add size. I think you saw, Florida's had some size last year. Um, Vegas, when they, beat Florida eventually, a lot of size.
Mhm.
Um, we've seen Tampa, play physical. They don't always have the biggest guys, but have guys that, with decent size and play hard, especially, guys like Victor Hedman. They brought in Barclay Goodrow that helped them. They had Pat Maroon. Um, I think we're seeing a trend in the league of size really mattering more in the playoffs. And you had a
Absolutely.
couple guys drafted last year, Hendrickson and Pelosi, and your center prospect pool, they're over 6'2". You had a kid like Jackson Nelson, Johnny Beecher's got some size. Um, I like what they're doing there. So I hope they continue to emphasize that because it does matter. They've got this kid, Jackson Edward, playing for the London Knights that's like 6'2" and hits everybody on defense. It's pretty much his identity. I like their emphasis on size. They drafted a kid from Finland last year that was 6'3". I like their trend toward adding some size, no matter where it is in the draft or in college free agency. It's a good crutch to have if you need some physicality. I feel like the Bruins really just drafted uh, more undersized guys, not guys with these bigger frames. So I like the trend there on there. Um, Colin Graff, a guy, depending on who you talk to, the top college free agent. Mark Diver said they're not really involved in him, and multiple other people have said they are. So I don't really know. I heard the Rangers were ruled out today. From Molly Walker from the New York Post said that. That's tough for them. That's another team. They have a lot of allure for college free agents. He's got some Western teams, got some Eastern teams, but he's from Mass, so the Bruins have that advantage. Played for the Junior Bruins back in the day. If I'm him, I'm going to an Eastern Conference team that's going to give him some more playing time. I just don't know how much he's going to play for the Bruins right away, and I'm not even sure he'd be. I thought I saw somewhere they might not be eligible for the playoffs depending on like when he's going to sign. So I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on it, but Colin Graff, biggest name. We saw yesterday that his decision could be made as soon as today. So maybe it'll happen during the show. Um, Ryan Ufko and Scott Morrow leave UMass. Their top defensemen both gone. Aaron Bollinger also gone to the transfer portal. Couple stud young defensive prospects. Good to see them, and for their organizations respectively, sign and not test free agency eventually. So a couple pretty good college players going from UMass. I don't know if you've ever heard of this kid, Ryan Cooper Black, goalie from Dartmouth, signed with the Florida Panthers. 6'8", 240 pounds. Right after we
Jesus.
saw,
It's a brick house in that.
yeah, the Flyers able to get Alexei Kolosov out of Russia. He's like 6'7", 6'8". Like, are we just gonna start seeing behemoth goalies now?
Would
Um,
probably be the way to go. Like,
you don't see many that big. I remember
no.
Ben Bishop. Um, he retired a few years back. Only other like really big one I can think is that Sogard kid on Ottawa. That's like 6'6". Maybe we'll see a revolution of big goalies. This
Hmm.
kid is a beast in the net. Jacob Quillen, who the Bruins had at camp last year, missed some time at camp, didn't really do a whole lot on the ice, if I remember correctly. Scored the game winner last year for Quinnipiac in the national championship. Chooses the Toronto Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs over the Boston Bruins. Tough to see, but we'll see if that decision works for him. Pretty good player. Seattle signs Maine's goalie Victor Osman. New team could use some goalie prospect depth. And that's about it. Just a little college recap before we wrap up hockey and transition into basketball.
Mhm. you see the
which I
massive
will.
5-on-5 brawl that happened in the Devils and
I did.
Rangers
I
game right out
did.
of the game? My uncle texted me that right before we jumped on. I'm like, you're
Yep.
not watching hockey right now, but couldn't remember. Didn't know
Rempe had to
why
answer the
at
bell.
first, but yeah, then he texted that the who the hell's the guy? I can't think of for the Rangers now. Um, the Rempe hit. I'm assuming that was the response to that from a couple weeks ago, whenever that was.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
All
When
right.
he was talking about like, I lost some respect for him for how he handled it.
That's right. Yeah, I remember we
Uh,
talked about that.
yeah, him and McDermott squared off. Long fight too.
Hmm.
They let him go. So that's about it for hockey. We'll see how the Bruins end up and how one Justin Brazeau ends up, and maybe if Jeremy Swayman can get back on track, that'd be really nice. I think what we've seen recently has been pretty solid overall. Nothing too crazy to complain about, but the Celtics, Ryan, a little dicey at times lately.
Hmm.
A little.
Yep.
How you feeling?
Again, it's weird because as I have said numerous times, we've talked about the Celtics. Like there is not a lot to talk about with this team because I don't see the point of coming on here. And again, I don't want to be negative. I don't see the point of coming on here every week and being like, oh, they just destroyed 3 teams in a row by 20 points. So like, yeah, like it's not a whole lot to talk about. It's not interesting stuff, and there's not a whole lot of talking points that come from that, other than that they have been the balls this year and they have dominated everybody. Um, the last couple games, though, there's been some things that have kind of creeped in and have crept up and maybe not swayed your thoughts on the Celtics, 'cause I think we still think that they are definitely definite title contenders. So there's, again, nothing to be a whole lot of doom and gloom about. But there have been, like I said, a couple of things. Um, Mainly the Atlanta series. I don't know why the Celtics, for whatever reason, just continue to, I don't want to say disrespect the Hawks, because like I don't think the Hawks are a good team. The Celtics just always seem to just not want to get up for those games. Um, and of course, how one of those games ended. My big takeaway, like again, like you're gonna have these lows at times. My whole thing going into the rest of the way, because again, there are some easy games coming up on the schedule. There are maybe some games that some of these teams are volleying for playoff position, so they're going to be tough. The remaining stretch coming up, you have OKC tonight. Good team, so I'm sure it'll be a competitive game. Then Sacramento, Portland, on the road against Milwaukee, home against the Knicks, home against Charlotte, and home against Washington. Take care of business, beat who you should beat. Don't kind of have these lulls like you've had these last couple games, the Atlanta game, the game from the other night, who I can't even remember who the hell they played, to be honest. But people who have watched the Celtics have watched. They've gotten off the slow starts. They're playing around with different combinations of guys out there to try to see what works for the playoffs. I get that. But my whole thing is just don't fall into these bad lulls and, have these moments where you kind of lose focus. Just stay the course, that type of thing. My big takeaway, something that could rear its ugly head in the playoffs, because you're obviously going to be playing close games, unless you just steamroll through the playoffs, which I don't think the Celtics are going to do. Like they're going to have these moments where teams play them tough. It is what it is. Can we stop in the final moments of games? Can we do something other than the ISO Jason Tatum? Like that has been my biggest gripe with this team this season. If they've gotten into close games, and it's come down to the wire, come down to the final shot. I get teams are going to go to their best player. Like I don't disagree with that aspect of it. Um, but my main takeaway, and I think the takeaway for a lot of people when the Tatum ISO happened in the first, I think it was the first Atlanta game. Um, just going up there and facing a guy and dribbling the ball 20 times, running the shot clock out, and then just throwing up a prayer and hope it goes in. Like that bugs the crap out of me with this team. It doesn't work. We've seen it work maybe one or two times with Tatum. It's his go-to move is obviously just kind of stare the guy down and then try to sidestep him, or have a fadeaway, like people have got on Tatum for this, pulling the Kobe aspect of it, trying to shoot over guys, because that's obviously Tatum's idol. So everyone has got on Tatum
That's what just popped
numerous
into my
times
head,
for
the
that.
Kobe thing.
Yep. Um, and the thing that bugs me about it too is Joe Mazzulla defends it. Like he basically every time it happens is like, well, he's our best player. We're gonna roll with him. And I get you have to defend your guy in that sense. But I would rather see them, if you're gonna go with Tatum, run a play for him. Don't just again have him stand at the 3-point line and dribble the clock out and then just throw up a prayer over a double team. Because as soon as it gets down to 1 or 2 seconds left, there's gonna be a guy that doubles. You're not gonna have enough time to pass the ball off. So if you that's what I would be working on. Like, you're probably not going to be in close games down the stretch, but like I would just be trying to figure out how to get more guys involved late. Like maybe drop a play for Tatum or something, get him moving instead of just kind of standing still, waiting for the one-on-one type of thing. That's where I'm at. Again, there's not a lot to be doom and gloom about the Celtics. They're 59-16, can clinch the overall 1 seed tonight with a win. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if somebody else has to lose or if they just
Mhm.
win in the whole playoffs run through the Garden. So there's not
Yeah,
a
and
lot to be
especially
upset about with this team, but that's like the one thing that has kind of stuck with me. Is the ineptitude in late game situations still kind of rears its
yeah.
ugly head once in a while, and that's something that needs to get figured out before the playoffs.
Yeah, I get where you're at, and I'm with you there too. And like you also just have guys. It's as simple as like you have other guys that can shoot. Like
Absolutely,
I don't know how much I trust Jalen Brown in that situation, but he can shoot. And like
I've
look, we
joked
saw it in the
before, like
playoffs
late.
last year, and even early in the regular season. Like Derek White is very good at hitting clutch shots late
I
in
had
games.
the exact conversation watching one of the Atlanta games with a buddy of mine. We both have shared the same thought processes of like you joke and you'd be like, okay, like you just said, you have all this talent on the team. Derek White is the guy I might feel the most confident in taking
Yes.
a late game shot, which again, with
Mhm.
Tatum, Brown, Porzingis is crazy to say. But like you just mentioned, Derek White has been one of the more clutch guys on this team for
He
quite
had
some
one
time.
stretch.
Like,
He had one stretch like probably a month and a half, 2 months ago, where
mhm.
like he had a huge fourth quarter in like 3 or 4 games in a row.
Absolutely.
Or
Yeah.
like
He was
4 or 5 or
Mr.
five or
Automatic.
six.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
he had that streak. I don't
Mhm.
know, but
You
even
bring up a
last
good.
like the playoffs too last year, he had some moments like
He's the reason why you
real
were in Game
ice.
7 against the Heat.
Yeah,
Like,
real ice in his veins. Like this is a guy that is he's money. He's
yeah.
money more often than not. Like I'm super comfortable with him shooting the ball late.
Mhm. Yeah, and you bring up a good point. That's what has kind of PO'd a lot of people as well. Is like years past, like yeah, okay, you knew in the end of games, it's Tatum or Brown. You know, worst comes to worst, if the ball's in Marcus Smart's hands, he's going to throw one up, and maybe it goes in. Most of the time, it doesn't. Like this is the year where you have five legitimate guys that like Drew Holiday obviously is the forgotten man because of what you have around him, but like that's a guy too. Just change it up. I wouldn't hate seeing him take the last shot. Like if I was Jalen Brown, I'd be pissed out there half the time because he ends up just getting stuck in the corner and just standing there. Like again, I'm with you. I don't know how much
He
I
has
trust
games
Jalen
late where he
Brown.
like doesn't get the ball very much.
That's what I mean. He'll just if it's late game, down a basket or tied, his play is go stand in the corner and again get out of the way for Tatum, which I
Mhm.
would change it up. Like I would try
It
to
gets
get
to a
more
point where you
people
become
involved.
predictable too.
Like yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you should have five options instead of in years prior the one or the two that you had in Tatum and Brown. Like you have five legitimate guys that should be able to hit a shot at the end of games. Um,
Yeah.
so that's where I'm at with that. Like just it, I don't even know like if it would look bad. Like if they lose a game where you're trusting a guy like Holiday with the final shot or Derek White with the final shot, I feel like people would kind of accept that. Like they wouldn't get on Missoula as they have in the past of just running with Tatum and seeing if he can make it. Like at least you're trying something different. Um,
Yeah.
so again, just something to work on late. Like I don't know how many late game situations you're going to be in down the stretch. I'm sure the
Yeah.
Milwaukee game, if they don't sit guys, will be close. The Sacramento game might be close because I think they're fighting for
And
maybe
Wemby is
their
like
playoff lives. Yeah.
Wemby is just nasty. Like we knew he was gonna be, but that one game where he went 40, 20, and 7 was crazy.
Hmm.
My big thing right now with the Celtics is like I'm in the mindset of, if you're gonna have these stretches, like you had some, a rough time with Atlanta without Trey Young. Um, you had some rough stretches I didn't love in that Hornets game. Um, get it out of
They've
the way
gotten
now.
off the slow starts the last couple of games, which is
Get it out
like,
of the way now. Like that's my hope.
yeah,
I'm not
good way to
gonna
look at it.
I'm not gonna get super pissed. Um, just get it out of the way now. It's
Hmm.
that simple for me. There's too much there's too much of a track record of consistency and pure dominance with this team for me to really like get super worried. So
Hmm.
get it out of the way now. You know, start the momentum back up with a win against a good team like OKC tonight.
Yeah, I mean, even those slow starts, like they did the who was the other one? The Pelicans was a really slow start as well. But on the flip side of it, they did close out those games. And like you should obviously close
Mhm.
out Charlotte. You shouldn't have a problem with them at all, especially when they were missing as many guys as they have, and they haven't had their best player in Lamelo Ball, and I can't even remember how long he's been out for. But in the defense of the Celtics in those games, like they did close those games out really well. So like that's not a problem you have to worry about against those type of teams. Um, but like I said, just the slow starts, don't fall into bad habits because you're only going to be playing good teams in the playoffs. Like, unless you get like a play-in team, then maybe you get a cupcake round one. Unless the Celtics do end up with Miami in round one, which would suck. Um, but like you're not going to have these teams roll over and die late in games when you get into the playoffs. So that's where I'm at. Like, don't fall into these bad habits, getting off the slow starts. Like, put these teams away early. I joked about it a couple weeks ago. And I said at the time I was joking about it that like the Celtics at this point look like they're just kind of in the mode of, can we get to the playoffs already? Like let's move on where it
Yes.
matters. They legitimately look like that now. Like when they have some of these lulls that like they're just coming and showing up to try to play and then just go home. Um, but don't be doing that like this late in the season. Like maybe you can do that when nobody's playing in the Washington game, the last game of the year, or the Charlotte game when, like I said, the second to last game of the year. But as you mentioned, like put these teams away, get these bad habits out of the way now instead of later when it really matters. And like we talked about, if you're gonna fall late in games or have these late game situations, maybe drop some plays that don't involve Jason Tatum. Give somebody else a
Yeah.
chance to just maybe build confidence too. Like, God forbid you do have a late game situation and Brown knocks one down. Then maybe, Jaylen Brown's feeling better about himself, and if you get to the playoffs and he has to kind of step up. Or maybe, like you said, you have Derek White, have a play or two here where he, like, I'm sure these guys aren't shaking for confidence or anything, but you know what I mean? Like, late game situation, if you're playing the Celtics, you should know what's going to happen. It's going to be a Jason Tatum isolation play, and it's probably going to be a brick. Like, I like Tatum; he's been an MVP all season. But again, my friend and I joked about this. Like, you pretty much know some sort of bricked three is coming if Tatum's got the ball late in his hands at this point, and that sucks because he's been so good. But that's what the aura that's kind of around him right now. And the people who argue that he's not a clutch player and all that type of crap. That we're not going to sit here and argue about tonight. But it is one thing that you kind of leave in the back of your mind, like, all right, like you got to figure something out in that situation.
Yeah, I'm with you. Bingo.
All right.
All right. Well, we have a little bit of football to wrap the show up. More so because of the Stephon Diggs trade. Antonio Brown headed first. Credit to CT ESPN. I couldn't help but think, like, I remember he tweeted out to March 17th. And I forget who else said it. Pelissero who said he's been hearing this for the past like 3 weeks. Discussions lines
Pieces
up.
together, yeah.
Some big insider, like, Antonio Brown is an insider.
He has
He
to.
had Russ first.
Yeah, he's gonna say he's nailed two of the bigger moves this offseason. Like, I hate the guy, but
How can you hate him at this
credit
point?
where
He's
I
hilarious.
can't stand Antonio Brown. Like,
He's hilarious, man.
mhm.
Come on, lighten up. Oh man,
Okay.
he's great.
I disagree. Agree to disagree.
Right, whatever. Whatever.
I give me some credit, because the first Russell Wilson one, I told you I was giving him no credit for. I've come off that a little bit, that he's now 2 for 2. So
yeah,
I will give credit where credit's due there.
He's, at the same time, he's also said like Justin Jefferson is going to go like to like 5 different teams. So
he's to the Bengals to team up with. Throws. Yeah,
he does. And funny enough, they're working out together today, Jefferson and Chase. So
put it this way, I will give Antonio Brown all the credit in the world if he can speak, as we'll get into in a second, the Patriots not drafting JJ McCarthy. Like, if he comes out and is like, the Patriots have decided to take Drake May at number 3 overall, and that hits, then I will be like, okay, this guy has some sort of magic. But
that's also like, anyone could say that. Like,
fair.
That's one of those things, yeah. But Stephon Diggs, a 2024 6th and a 2025 5th, are headed to Houston for Minnesota's 2025 second-round pick. Which, credit to the Texans, they're already using assets from that trade they made a couple weeks ago, that Minnesota pick.
Mm-hmm.
Gives the Bills some ammo, an extra piece if they want to move up. Get a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. Maybe they like a guy like Donovan Mitchell.
Wide receiver room is not impressive.
It's a great time right now, at least, to have Curtis Samuel on your dynasty bench.
For sure. Yep. Khalil Shakir too. Like, that's a guy that we talked about a couple weeks ago that should have a bigger role in that offense. We obviously didn't think he's probably the de facto number 1 right now, but
no, yeah, but they need to double dip, maybe triple dip at receiver.
Yeah, for sure.
Draft. Maybe there's, I don't know who else is out there for lower end names. Maybe they trade for a guy like Cortland Sutton. That would stink, but it's a guy maybe they're interested in now. They've lost their 2 top receivers. That's how it is.
Well, that was a surprising thing.
I'm interested to see how the target share works in Houston.
Oh, for sure. Well, that was what I was going to get to. Is like, I didn't know, obviously, when this first dropped, I didn't think that, like, okay, that Nico Collins or Tank Dell have to be going back. But this is why you and I do this. Our minds think alike here. You would have thought, like, a player, as you said to me, like John Mechie would have been just kind of a throw-in piece in that deal, just to get something back in the wide receiver room if you're Buffalo, to try to, make something out of that. But guess that wasn't the case. And like you said, now I'm very interested to see how that kind of affects those other two wide receivers that really stepped up and had kind of breakout years for the Texans. Obviously, we saw it coming with Collins the last couple of years, but Tank Dell obviously burst onto the scene, obviously before his unfortunate injury. So now with Diggs being there, like how much is that going to affect those two guys? I think it's only going to help. Like obviously the targets are not going to be huge as they were, but you had a guy like Stephon Diggs to that offense. I can't imagine it's going to drag too much.
Yeah, and it just makes them a true matchup nightmare. Because even Noah
For
Brown was
sure.
good last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
John Mechie can be good. We know I believe he had some injury troubles, and around his draft, the time he was drafted, he had the cancer diagnosis.
Yep.
Like he's had a rough go. If they can get him going and he can be a contributor, they really have endless options. Because Joe Mixon is great now. He can catch some passes.
Right. I forgot they had him too.
Dave Damian
That
Pierce
offense is
probably
going to
not
be
going to do much. Dalton
fantastic.
Schultz, Brevin Jordan showed some glimpses last year. I think he can be a good second fiddle to Dalton Schultz, a guy that could get progress a little bit. They have tons and tons of options. Their defense got a lot better. Will Anderson's going to take a step up. I forget somebody had the list. I should have had this pulled up, but they added Danico Autry. They lost Jonathan Grenard, which sucks. But you can't
They
keep
added
them all, I
Miles Bryant out
suppose.
of kind of
They
nowhere.
had Miles Bryant. They didn't add Randy Gregory like the Bucks did. I saw earlier today. What was the list here that Shefty tweeted out here? Who else did they add?
Remember?
Nope, wrong one. Daniel Hunter, that was the other big one I was thinking. Daniel
Yeah,
Hunter,
that's
Jeff
right.
Okuda, CJ Henderson, Okuda and Henderson kind of trying to turn a couple top 10 picks into something from recent drafts.
Mhm.
Hasn't really worked out for either of them very well. He also Foley Fatukasi is a really underrated player, and Tim Settle, who I can't say I know a lot about. Houston's real, man. This is a real
Gonna
contender,
be
real
scary
Super Bowl
good. Yep.
contender. If Stroud does not hit a sophomore slump, which I have, I can say comfortably, I don't think he will. They're going to be scary, and it's interesting. We saw the L'Jarius Sneed trade. Best pick in the deal wasn't 2024, and this feels the same way. We got 2025 pick on the move as the big chip, big draft chip at least. For the Bills, it's okay.
Yeah, it's not a great return. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
for me, your mind
I
always
don't know.
immediately goes to like, is this a deal the Patriots could have made? Then you get pissed
And the
off, like
Bills
most
still
people
pay,
do.
pay him a bunch. I think they pay him
Oh, they do?
39.6 million.
Oof, that's a really
That could
bad.
be over 2 years, but I
Mhm.
thought I saw 39.6. Don't quote me on that.
But
It's okay.
yeah, I mean, my thing too, really quick, was like I said, I saw a decent amount of people I feel like on Twitter that were up in arms about the Patriots not getting involved in a trade like this, and I think it was you sent me the thing about if this is what you can get for Stephon Diggs, then you can definitely give up less for T Higgins. Like my whole thing,
That's preposterous. T.
it
Higgins is going to
is.
cost more.
And then my whole thing too is like I can't imagine the Bills were going to trade with and give up the best
No,
receiver,
fuck
not the
no.
best receiver in the division because obviously I forgot Tyreek Hill existed. But they
Mhm.
were not going to give Stephon Diggs up to the Patriots. It didn't matter unless
No.
the Patriots were willing to trade probably like the third overall pick, which wasn't going to happen. So this is a deal
Where
the
do
Patriots
you
never could have made. Like,
where do you stand in the whole a lot of people are saying, you know, the AFC East taking a big hit. The Patriots, have treaded water a little bit, made some good plug and play moves. Well, maybe gotten marginally better. Just talking about not I feel like people are more so saying that it's just in the scope of the division not being
fair.
contender to
Yep.
win it.
Hmm.
Um the Dolphins, they let go of a ton of veterans, especially on defense. They lost a starting guard. They don't have a good offensive line to begin with. Um
Fair.
a offensive line that employs Isaiah Wynn as a starter. And the Bills, no Gabe Davis, no Stephon Diggs anymore.
Put it this way:
Jordan
no wide
Poyer gone.
receivers. Yeah.
Trey White to the Rams.
It is an
What's
interesting way
the
to look
other
at it
big
for
name?
sure.
There's a
I
few
don't doubt
others.
that, but
They
I
released
just
their starting center. These are the Bills are going to look a lot different next year. They'll still be good, but I don't know. There's a lot going on that makes the AFC at least a little more interesting, a little more balanced, maybe.
I guess, but then I mean the way you still
It's
look
not
at it
going to
is
make
like
the
there's
Patriots a contender for the division,
no,
but
there's still too many
it makes
questions
things
about the
more interesting.
Patriots.
The Jets, the Jets. Like
True.
we need to see it um materialize into a potential playoff berth before we get excited here. I think
Mhm.
both you and I are always on the same page there.
Who would you put at the
Um,
forefront of the division right now, though? Now that you just said the Jets, because they
Miami.
were really because the Jets with Aaron Rodgers coming back were most likely my bet. Like solid
I don't.
defense. Like we know what Miami
I need to
does,
see
but
how
then
that
again, we
new
know what the
look O
Jets do.
line holds
So
up. Like
fair.
Toronto, I almost called him Teron. I was thinking of Teron Armstead on the Dolphins, but Tyron Smith, injury troubles the last couple of years, 33 years old. Morgan Moses playing right tackle, very old. John Simpson, pretty good pickup. Um, Also from the Ravens. I need to see how that line works as a unit. I need to see how Aaron Rodgers looks coming off an Achilles.
Hmm.
Probably be pretty good, but it's an Achilles injury for a
Still, yeah,
39-year-old
it's still something
quarterback
to worry
who's
about for sure.
focused on politics in the offseason
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
I don't know how far that will go, but I don't know. I'll always need to see it to believe it with the Jets. I will expect them to
That's
win
fair.
like 6 to 8 games at the
Hmm.
most until I get a reason not to. And right now I don't have that reason.
There's
But
just so
pretty
much
crazy trade.
stacked.
Good timing too. Thank you, Bills and
Yeah,
Texans,
absolutely.
for
Yep,
the
for
show.
sure.
Thank you.
There's still just to kind of answer your question and give one final thought on it. Like there's still just too much stacked up against the Patriots. Like you look across the division, like every team still has a bona fide quarterback. You don't know, and we're gonna get into it in a second here. It doesn't seem like anyone has a clue what the Patriots are gonna do with quarterback. We both think Gerard Mayo, excuse me, Gerard Mayo is gonna be a good head coach. Um, but still the biggest question mark in the division. Like you can maybe make the case that Robert Saleh is still a question mark as a head coach. Um, but
He
the
is.
Patriots are what's up?
He is.
Absolutely, I would agree with you. But Gerard Mayo's still a question mark in that department. So I think the Patriots still, like you said, well, they have made some decent moves here and there. Like you still expect the Bills to be good, like you just said, even though they have all these losses. You still expect Miami to be there. I do think the Jets. I'm right there with you. The Jets are the Jets, but like right now on paper, I'd probably pick them over the Patriots. Um, so Patriots still
Yeah.
have work to do. And again, I think as we'll get into here in a second, like it's going to depend on what you do draft night. And again,
Yep.
it does not seem like right now that they are leaning in the right direction, depending on who you ask.
Yeah,
Um,
and
in
that's
this,
another thing. Like every team in this division has a big round one at least for the draft. Patriots need to make the right decision. The Bills need to make a play to move up or get a receiver they like.
absolutely, yep.
The Jets, could it be Brock Bowers? Could it be another lineman for the future? They've obviously struggled. Elijah Vera Tucker's been good for the most part when he's healthy, but Mekhi Becton did not pan out. Can't stay healthy. They need a foundational piece for the future. Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses won't be around forever. In Miami, like their offensive line wasn't good. They let Robert Hunt go to the Panthers for 100 mil. They could use a center, they could use a guard, they could use a tackle, they could use a guy like Graham Barton from Duke that can play all of them. They could use Jackson Powers Johnson, the top center in the draft from Oregon. These teams all have question marks. So this is like this is a great point. My brother brought this type of discussion up in our family group chat today. I'm like, I'm not ready to fully commit to any take on any team, like in terms of how they stack up in the division completely right now. So they need to see what happens in the draft, especially for the
Fair.
Patriots. Like,
Yep, that's fair.
obviously the Patriots, I don't think are getting above 3 in that division for me, but they might not even touch 3 or get close to it. But yeah, there's some time that needs to pass here. And as you were alluding to, JJ McCarthy is becoming more and more of a potential option, and Elliot Wolf apparently likes him a lot and is pushing hard, and that makes me sad
I
because
hope that's
I will
smoke and
reiterate.
mirrors.
I
I
will
really
reiterate
do.
this on JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy is a good football player. He is not worthy of the third overall pick. He was not a top 3 factor on his team that won the national championship this year. I do not want him at 3 overall.
Not like it.
He is not a proven passer. He is a good passer. He has good tools. He has a good arm. He can move a little bit. He was not enough of a factor on that Michigan team. He's still 20, so he's got time to develop. He is not worth the third overall pick, not even close to me. I don't even think he's top 10 player I would take.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody will. Like if he's there at 4, 5, 6, there's going to be teams calling to trade up, namely the Vikings, the Broncos, the Raiders, potentially.
Well, that's what I was
Maybe
going to say.
someone
The
off the board.
Vikings, their betting odds I saw
Yeah,
changed
but
drastically
he
the other
just
day.
seems like such a Viking to
Yep.
me. Broncos, we know apparently Sean Payton really likes Drake May.
Too bad.
Too bad. I'm still in the camp. I want it to be Drake May. It's safe. It's reliable. There's a lot to like about the player. I think if he played it with better surroundings, he'd be in the competition for number one with Caleb Williams. Just make the right pick. Make the right pick. There's not enough. I don't know how you can see enough to take JJ McCarthy. The championship helps. Over Drake May. Jaden Daniels, maybe Jaden Daniels is really good, but I don't know. I think Drake May, I'm a little more comfortable with as a prospect than Jaden Daniels. JJ McCarthy played for a team where his coach was a bigger factor, his running game and his defense were all bigger factors in their success than him, in my opinion. I do not want him at 3, and I hope we can't forget about that Washington Commanders thing. That the Commanders just make the decision. They take JJ. We don't have to worry about it. Because at that point, I want Drake May a little more.
All bets are off if that happens.
At that point, I want Drake May a little more at 3 than Jaden Daniels, but I won't care as long as it's one. I won't care.
Yeah, if that's the case, obviously you have to wait and see if these players pan out. But you feel like you would have won the draft if JJ McCarthy goes at 2 and you're left having to basically flip a coin between May and Daniels at 3. Unless you're the guy I work with, I think I texted you this, that he thinks Caleb Williams is going to go 3 to the Patriots because Jaden Daniels is going 1 and Drake May's going 2, which is absolutely insane. Or vice versa. I can't remember who he had, but when I heard that the other day at work, I'm like, that is the most insane take I have ever heard. Speaking of
crazy 1 and 2, I did not know about Cynthia Freeland's mock draft that you have linked in here, which had Joe Alt going first overall.
Give that one some caveat, though, because that was made on February 9th. So I would have to assume that was before the trade of Justin Fields, but it's still absolutely crazy. Insane. Yeah, for sure.
Joe Alt is a phenomenal tackle.
That's the definition of a draft ruiner right there. If a tackle were to go number 1 overall, that's a move you trade down for sure.
You do not take Drake May at number 1. Nothing against Cynthia. I like the boldness. I do. But I think Joe Alt will be a plus level add for the Chicago Bears. You just don't. Even when you had even at this point where you don't have Justin Fields, it's Drake May. Just take Drake May. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I really
what people were saying on Twitter today. Watch what the Texans did. They took the quarterback. Obviously, they had much more reason to, and much more stability at number 2 to take him to the Patriots do. They knew they were going to get Stroud Young. It's a little different this year, but they drafted him. They spent a lot around him. They had a new coach and a new staff, and the spending around him could come next year.
True.
Or maybe it's going to be T. Higgins soon. Get him in here. He'll have less of a cast surrounding him than CJ Stroud for sure, but get him and then go from there. That's it. And you're lucky. Still, you have the option. If you really don't, if it comes down to we didn't take Drake May because we weren't sold that we loved him enough at 3, you have a generational receiver available.
It's true.
It's a broken record, but it's how it is.
Unless you're Lance Zierlein, you think the Patriots will trade out of that pick and draft Malik Neighbors at 6, which wouldn't be the worst thing, but also
I wouldn't hate that either.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people, they do the Vikings thing where they get 11, 23 into 25 first and take Olu Fashanu from Penn State and Adonai Mitchell. Hey, if they end up with that haul, if they trade down, I'd be cool with that. But I still want the quarterback, It's the exciting, it's the flashy.
I'm right there with you. Yeah.
I see a lot of Justin Herbert and Drake May, and that excites me.
It's also the pick you need the most. We know for a fact you're not going to ride the whole season with Jacoby Brissett. I like Jacoby Brissett, but that's not the smart move or the right move. They could, but again, when you have, like you just said, when you have this opportunity, you don't do that. It's just as simple as that. You got to give
them a taste.
Absolutely.
Was there anything you wanted to mention because you listed some mock draft results? Anything that stood out to you, looking at the whole picture as a whole for any of those, or just where your head's at as well?
No, it's just basically that I feel like no one really knows what the Patriots are going to do because I feel like everybody has a different quarterback or just obviously a variation of the top, a couple of guys. I just hope it's, like I said earlier, I hope the whole McCarthy thing is a smokescreen. I hope, as people have said before, it's Elliott Wolf playing chess while other people are playing checkers type of thing.
I really do.
Like,
because they did have that meeting with him, a lengthy meeting they
you know,
called it, which
yeah,
they
yeah.
can
I
have a
mean, everything
lengthy
you've
meeting with
heard.
anybody, but
Exactly. But everything you heard too is like they like his intangibles, like because obviously that's the thing that Gerard May always said, like we want a guy that's a leader, we want a tough, a tough guy type of thing.
yeah,
There's people that believe McCarthy fits the. I don't doubt that he doesn't. Fits that mold, but I'm with you. Like if you're sitting there with the chance to take Drake May or JJ McCarthy, like it's Drake May all day. I don't mean to rhyme. Or throw some poetry at you late in the show.
there
Um,
we go.
but again, it just comes back to it's such a and maybe like you said, McCarthy is gonna be probably a decent player. He's not number
Not
three
third
level
overall.
decent.
He's
Yeah,
just
like
not.
you can't mess this position up. You're at the point in your franchise's, you're at a tumultuous time in your franchise's history, in future moving forward. So you can't bone this pick up. You have to go with the guy that is the best available, and it's going to be either May or Daniels at that point. So that's the route you should be going in. Like I said, I hope they're just blowing smoke with the whole, we're really high on McCarthy type of thing. If you are,
That'd be
like,
lovely.
trade down, then get out of the pick if that's the case. But we're both in the
There's
same
still that
mindset.
possibility
Don't do it. Just take May at
that you don't
3 and,
like a
and
guy
call it a
enough
day.
and you move down. But even then, like you said, like you don't like the quarterback enough, just take Harrison.
True. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Take
Get
a
a number
quarterback
one.
later. Try to trade back into the first round and maybe get a
He is
quarterback at
the
the end of the
instant
first
best
round.
receiver on your team if you take him.
Absolutely. Yep.
Instantly. And that's not even a slight to anybody. It's just
No, it's
he
just it
just
is what it
is.
is. Yeah.
He is. And then that's gonna wrap it up, Ryan.
I
What
think
about
so.
you?
I got nothing else. Yeah, it's
I got nothing else either. That's gonna wrap it up for episode 187. Thanks for joining us again here on another Wednesday. If you're listening Thursday or beyond, thank you as well. We are working to figure out our new distribution system. Still, it is taking some time on the Full Press side to get all of the Full Press shows on Spotify. Some are out there, some aren't. It's taking some time. If you're a Spotify listener listening somewhere else, please bear with us. We'll keep you posted on Twitter. You can find us on Podbean and Apple Podcasts right now. And you can find, obviously, if you want to rewatch the actual video portion, you can watch on YouTube, Twitch, any of the Twitter accounts. It's streamed on or Facebook, just to give people all the options because our options are a little more limited than usual right now. But it's largely out of our control. It is working to be fixed higher up in the totem pole at Full Press here. So you can follow us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Salvaggio and Cratty Pod. Follow us on TikTok as well. As the draft gets closer, I'll be doing some draft content there. So keep an eye out there. We'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice people, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you then. Peace out.